say thank you, you pursue it, you look at it, you really delve into it, then you make up your mind. So 23 years ago, I wasn't smart enough to figure that out. Well, 4 years ago, I was in Las Vegas, and I was at this lady's house, and she had a copy of Silva Mind Control. And guess what it is? It's learning to discipline your own mind to stay on track. Now, 20 years I missed on learning how to keep my mind focused. So you have to have, excuse my reach, sweetie. You have to have the discipline, the focus, and to know where you are and where you're going. So this is a sheet that I use every week. I print this out. So on this sheet is my appointments that I have during the week. These are all my authors that I work with every single week. Kim's on there for yesterday. These are my blogs. I have 32 blogs, and I write every single day on my blogs. It takes me 1 hour a day to keep 32 blogs up every week. Every one of my blogs is ranked under 1 million, and 1 million is 1/10 of 1% of all websites in the world. There's 1.2 billion websites in the world. So that's quite an accomplishment. This is my passion. This panel here is the ultimate business university. My goal is to take 300 children off the streets and put them in a school that I'm building in Belize. $5.2 million to build the school, $4.5 million a year to take care of them, which is only $15,000 a year per child, 1/3 of what it would take to take care of them in the United States. These are kids who have been discarded, they're living on the streets, they have no home, they have no family. And we let them stay on the streets. It's one of the things that I became aware of because my little brother Tony was adopted when he was 5, and some of the stories that he told us would make anybody have nightmares, and yet he lived through it. At 5 years old, he was living in a doghouse in the backyard of the foster care. In a doghouse, in the yard. So that inspired me. When he had cancer, I told him that I was going to build this school as a legacy for him. And he passed away 4 years ago, which is actually the impetus for me writing this book, which was my first jump into the law of attraction. Create your own reality, the ancient wisdom. And one of the things that I have found was during Aristotle's time, Socrates, during Caesar's reign in Rome, they were all dealing with exactly the same challenges as we deal with today. Does that make sense? How is it possible we haven't figured this out yet? How could we possibly go through the same things for 2,000 years and not learn? Either through osmosis, or we have more education available to us now than we've ever had. And with the internet, we can Google anything. Google's actually in the dictionary now. It is actually a verb. And we can find out any information about anything we want. Isn't that amazing? So how is it we keep getting stuck in the same place that our ancestors did? You know, I think about my ancestors, and I love this. There's a chapter on history. You know, history is actually his story, right? The story of our ancestors actually tells a lot about who we become. My ancestors, and I just think that's so cool, on one side of my father's family, Marie Tricky was the handmaiden to the Queen of Spain, and Peter Bonenberger was the head of council in Munich. And they wanted to get married, but they were denied their wedding vows, so they both got on their own ships, met Mexico City, got married, and went up to Tennessee and started a cotton plantation. They didn't care what anybody said. That's how driven they were. Now, why don't we retain that kind of drive through generation after generation? But when people get to know me, they actually can't believe the things that I've accomplished in my life, the things that I have done, the places that I've been. Because to me, life is too short to actually waste any time. You know, when I'm watching TV, I'm writing. I have a movie on, but I'm multitasking. And women are really good at multitasking, aren't we? But that's a good thing, because what I find is it makes both the left brain and the right brain stay active. And you have to have left brain and right brain active. How many of you actually do some kind of a craft? Right? Ruby's a great artist. She's an amazing artist. That's engaging the right brain. Right brain is creative. How many of you actually get nervous when you go to do something you're not familiar with? Yeah? I'll tell you a little trick. I'm also an info junkie, admittedly. I love studying things, and I love seeing how to apply those things to everyday life. So I took an Aikido class one time, and I found out that you can actually tell whether you're in left brain or right brain. So if you're doing your taxes, what brain do you want to be in? Yeah, that'll get you in trouble if you're in right brain, wouldn't it? All right, let's say that you want to write an article. Which brain would you want to be in? Right, creative brain. Yeah, absolutely. Unless it's a how-to. If you're saying this is how you build something, that would be logical. All right, so this is really cool. If you take your knuckle and hold it over one side of your nose and blow out, everybody gets to play. And then hold the other side. How many of you have more free air from the right side of your nostril? You're in left brain analytical right now. Okay, if it's right side, that's left brain analytical. Your right brain controls the left side of your body. If the left nostril is more free, that means you're in right brain, which is where you would want to be when you're writing. And we all flip 90 minutes, left brain, right brain, all day long. But let's say it's 8:30 in the morning, and this is your hour and a half that you have to write. But you're in left brain. And you sit there and you go, I've got writer's block. I have brain freeze. I can't think of anything. All right, the words don't flow. So this is what you do. You know how the collarbone comes straight across? Right in the center, there's a soft spot. It's like a little indentation. And if you push on it, it's sore. Right? So all you do is starting at 12 o'clock and go towards your left shoulder, and you make a big circle. And you press as hard as you can. It should hurt. All right, now try your nose again. Now you've just flipped from left to right, right to left. Isn't that cool? So no matter what you want to do, you can control where you are in your brain. But it's a great way to stop writer's block. You were talking about writing a book, right? So this is an easy way to be able to have a little more control over what brain activity you're using. Now, when you actually do crafty things, I made my jewelry. And I usually spend my Sundays either making clothes or making my jewelry. And I never know which one comes first. I might see the beads and decide to start there. Or I find the material and then I'm inspired to start there. But I always do. Ruby's making fun of me all the time because I'm monochromatic.
You can tell.
I love being monochromatic.
I was going to say your bag doesn't match today.
No, it doesn't. But there isn't enough for the dark in here that I got away with. And, you know, I just think it's kind of cool. I don't know why. I was raised, you know, I'm born in 1950. I was raised in an era where we matched everything, right? And that's just the brain set. That's hard to break. Ruby's getting me to try to, like, have a pop of color. Right? That's the big thing.
Yes.
Okay, so here's my pop of color.
Except that it's the same color as your jacket.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of different. I'm getting there. Thank you. So, if you can do something one day a week using your right brain, you can actually change how your brain balances. Because we're all born predominantly either right brain or left brain, but it's the activity that we do that changes that. So I was born left brain. I was 90% left brain in 1991. And one day, my boyfriend, who always slept late on the weekends, didn't get up till 1 o'clock. By the time he got up, I had taken a canvas he had, and I started free pencil drawing a dragon. Now, I didn't know how to stop it, so the dragon ended up pregnant. I kept doing scales and scales and scales. I didn't know how to like bring it in to make it look, so I just said it was a pregnant dragon. But it was a real good-looking dragon. Now, I was in the 3rd grade, and I was drawing race cars. And my teacher came over, and she looked over my shoulder, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm drawing." She said, "Girls don't draw cars." I heard, "Girls don't draw." I didn't hear cars. I never drew again. Isn't that something? So what we actually say to children also molds who they become and what they're willing to accept for themselves. So even with your children now and they're adults or their children, the words that you use define who they become. And that's what's so important, because we can actually say one thing to a child and change their life 180 degrees. So I look for opportunities. These are my speaking engagements. I'm so excited. We're going to Australia for 6 weeks, speaking for 6 different venues. And then we're going to London. I have to say that this wasn't on my agenda. Australia was definitely 5 years ago. I started saying I'm speaking in Australia. So one of our friends, Summer, talks about future speaking, right? Wherever you think you're going, you speak as though it's today. I'm speaking in Australia. Well, I started that 5 years ago. Thanksgiving Day, I got a call from Simon, who's a friend of mine on Facebook. You're not using social media, you need to rethink that. So Simon said, "How am I going to get you over to Australia?" And I said, "You set the date, I will be there." And that's how that started. From 1 speaking engagement to now 6 speaking engagements in Australia. Pretty neat. Kim's coming with us. So I put to Kim, she said, "Oh, I want to go." Never say anything like that around me, unless you're serious.
That's true.
So I said, "How are you going to actually be there and speak to make it worthwhile?" And we started brainstorming, and Kim's writing her 2nd book on getting over the fear of public speaking. Isn't that cool? So now she's going to be creating a program. You're going to Tahoe when? The end of the month?
Yeah, at the end of the month.
Shutting everything off, going up there for a week, the book will be done. It's the greatest way of doing it. That's how I did my 2nd book. My, who needs a coach? Everybody should have a coach. Because you know what, we can only do what we know. And I have a friend in LA that every time I see him, he will say at one point or another, "Never go into your own mind alone. It's a dangerous place to wander." Right? I just think that's so cool. So I went up. My management consultant was always telling me, "Slow down. You're going to have a nervous breakdown. Don't work so hard. Take some time out. What'd you do for fun this last week?" "I read a book." "What was the book on?" "Management." He said, "That's not fun. It doesn't count." And he said, "I want you to do something the next 6 months that is really fun." So I wrote a book. It's called Making a List and Checking It Twice, What Singles Need to Know. To me, that was fun. I went to Tahoe for a week. I went out, walked for an hour